Hi, this is Wishop, and this is your tarot reading for the full moon in Aquarius of August 18th, which we'll really be able to start seeing it the night of August 17th, and then it'll go on into the early morning, at least here in the US where I'm filming. So this is an exciting full moon because it's not quite an eclipse. The shadow, which would cover the moon in an eclipse, is just barely touching the moon. So it's not really an eclipse, but a lot of astrologers feel it's going to have a similar kind of oomph and that it's going to kick off our eclipse season. So the themes behind the Aquarius full moon are things like innovation, new ideas, inventiveness, breaking rules, but for a worthwhile cause, association with like-minded or like-hearted people, ideas like integrity, and a general sense of thoughts and communication that are driven by a need to see something new. So I decided this isn't precisely new, but because I have felt in the previous readings recently, and also just for myself, the need to have focus, I thought I would just focus on one card for this full moon and see what we can do with it. Sometimes going deep is better than going broad and wide-ranging. So let's see what we get. This is the gorgeous Reflections Tarot deck, which I love, illustrated by Francesco Ciampi. It's a Lo Scarabeo deck. I originally bought this deck in New Orleans, so it's got a little extra juice for me because of that. So the card is, oh, and by the way, I should say, these faces on the back are from the illustration of the moon card in this deck. So you always get reflections. And I like that because we're dealing with polarities, trying to harmonize different polarities right now. And Aquarius, the water bringer, if we think of it as the star card, she's got two vases of water and she's pouring them in the water and on the land. So she's working both sides of the balance to try and create harmony. So here is the card. It is the Five of Cups upright. Now, I love this illustration of the Five of Cups upright. And let me see if I can get a little bit closer on it so that you can really see. This is an unusual depiction because a lot of us are used to the Rider-Waite depiction, which has this cloaked, hidden figure. We can't see the face in this black cloak, but it appears to have its head bent in grief over three spilled cups, two of them spilling red liquid like wine or blood, and one of them spilling green liquid, which we might think of as sort of the green of the natural world or even of poison. And behind the character are two standing cups upright. The traditional quickie meaning associated to this card is don't cry over spilled milk and move on. There's a bridge in the distance and a castle, and it looks like it's time to just accept your losses and move on. Okay, I think that's a very good meaning. That's got a lot of use. There are a lot of times when that is a message that can be very helpful to think about. But it's not the only way to think about the Five of Cups. For one thing, a traditional definition for the Five of Cups, another sort of quickie meaning, is called heredity. So where we think about heredity, we are thinking about these emotional patterns that are very long-standing. And that is probably the kind of thing that you have been confronting as we've all been working through this Mars Scorpio stuff and Saturn in Scorpio. The idea has really been pulling up these patterns from the past, pulling up our own behaviors, our own regrets, and looking through them for a long time. It seemed like forever, in order to come to better understandings of them and to feel ready to put them aside and to make fresh decisions without carrying those feelings forward. There has been such a strong emphasis, I believe at least, in the astrology and also in the cards reading recently, to say that whatever your pattern was in the past, when you face a new problem in the future that looks similar, don't accept that it's exactly the same or that it will work out the same. True emotional liberation from your pains and from your wounds means that you can look at what might have occurred to you as a similar situation and see it with calmness and detachment. It's sort of like, I think of it like the idea, if you've ever been in a car accident, even just a fender bender, for the few days after that, or maybe longer, whenever your car gets close to another one, you kind of flinch automatically. You don't mean to, but the shock sort of impressed itself upon you, and now you have this new habit, and it may take a while to get out of that habit. You don't want to flinch every time you're in traffic, but you find yourself flinching. So when we have emotional problems that haven't been fully resolved, we're not really done yet, we're not really healed yet, they can cause in us flinches. We face new situations, new people, and there's enough reminder of the old situation that we flinch. We can't think straight. We can't make our best decision because we're still reacting from that old situation. So 5 of Cups, I think, especially where we look at the word heredity, has a lot to do with freeing yourself from emotional patterns and emotional triggers so that you can make your best decision. This particular 5 of Cups, which I just love, is triumphant. You can see she's in this golden chariot. She is queenly. She has the same green hair as the Queen of Pentacles in this deck, who I also love, who's a very obviously well-off, secure, emotionally comfortable card, the Queen of Pentacles. And here we have another green-haired queen who is wearing royal purple, but we also think of purple as a color of grieving, of mourning, of bruises, of old wounds. And here she is on this golden chariot, and the focus is really on her, not on what's pulling her. But a chariot can't help but remind me of the Cancer moon and the chariot card, and the 2 sphinxes which pull it, the black and the white, as you try to get that polarity straightened out, as you try to harmonize opposing forces, even within yourself. And here, I would almost say that this card, instead of focusing on the chariot, is focused on the charioteer. She is now emotionally self-possessed. She has owned the emotional legacy of her life or of her past or of wherever all these feelings have come from. She owns this and she is carrying forward. And you see the crowd around her and she's casting coins into the crowd. I love this because it's a very Aquarian sort of feeling where she has dealt with her own emotional issues to the point she now has generosity and compassion enough to share with other people that can really benefit them. And they are appreciative. They're not looking at her throwing tomatoes saying, "How dare you be imperfect? How dare you have flaws? How dare you be bruised and upset by life? How dare you have experienced? How dare I can't get those words right at the moment. How dare you experience setbacks and problems and losses? And that's not the focus right now. The focus, and if you think of it again, comparing to the traditional Five of Cups card, her cloak is behind her. She's not wearing a hood. She has cast off that mourning, so to speak. She's cast off that veil. She's not hiding her feelings now, and she's not ashamed of anything. She's quite proud of the person that she's become, and that person overflows. There are other depictions of this Five of Cups that show overflowing because it's dynamic. Five is a dynamic number. Cups, obviously, the water suit. And that water can be the waters of emotion, of course, but also of inspiration, of new blessings, of new gifts. So we see this dynamic change in our gifts, in our blessings, in our spiritual inspiration. Aquarius is, of course, the water bearer. So we get this great water cup that says things are changing, right? And you're being filled up. And you don't have to think of it in the traditional Five of Cups way, where you're feeling overwhelmed by these emotions. You're feeling unable to manage them. You can also feel that you can take these in a triumphant way because you've done your work. You know, the past 3-4 years have been a lot of work. There's been a lot of emotional work a lot of people have done, dragging their way through their own personal underworlds to emerge stronger. And it wasn't necessarily through feats that you would have chosen. You wouldn't have wanted to have to develop strength in this way. But if you look at yourself now, you probably realize you are stronger. And you wouldn't have chosen it, but here you are. And you are surviving, and you're strong, and your presence here is a blessing to all of us. And this Five of Cups really reminds us of that life is not about avoiding the emotions or avoiding the upsets or avoiding the trials. It's about triumphing after them and finding your cups overflowing again. No matter how many cups have spilled, this Five of Cups has enough to share. The cup can always be filled again. The cup can always be offered again. In fact, the more you pour out, the more you tend to have. And that's what this Aquarian full moon is all about in terms of its humanitarian aims and in terms of its looking forward with a sense of integrity and truth. And that's what this card is about, this sort of queenly triumph that recognizes emotions, that's made peace with them, that is now in great comfort, and uses this abundance of compassion to help other people, and in turn gets recognized for it. Like, hey, that's pretty great what you're doing. So if you have felt unappreciated and you've had difficulties defining your new direction, I think this full moon in Aquarius is really going to help you see the kinds of associations that you may want and need in terms of finding your tribe. I think it may also help clarify for you where you've gotten stronger and the gifts, the cups of yours that are being filled up to the top so that you even have abundance left over. So I think this is going to be a great one. I hope you experience it with a sense of relief and triumph and a thought that you are so much stronger than you were before. You are so much more capable, so much more competent, so much more able to make decisions that are truly from your heart's desire and in your own best interest. And thank you for being you. Now go rock on with your bad self.